You should see some type of a message saying that we are now recording. All right, so I just opened up a new drawing, brand new document from the template, just like we've done in previous weeks. Tonight, we're going to start looking at drawing actual houses or office buildings, whatever you want to look at, right? I don't care what you want to think about it is a basic architectural building. We're going to be utilizing lines. Okay, so lots of lines tonight. We'll be utilizing some offset features. And then last but not least, we're going to be getting into the dimensions and actually dimensioning these items. So let's go ahead and start. And again, I don't care where you start in your drawing, but we're going to go start by drawing a line. And I'm going to draw my line, and you can see right now I'm so far zoomed out that line's almost 4,000 feet, right? So I'm just going to zoom in to where I want to, and I'm going to draw a line that's 40 feet long. So I'm going to type in 40 feet into the command line down there, and that's going to give me a true 40-foot line. Now, with the line tool, until you hit escape, you are automatically drawing the next line, right? So it's automatically trying to draw another line for me. So I'm going to go ahead and say 25 feet down. And I forgot to hit the foot mark. Okay, so that's one thing that we want to make sure that we're doing, right? Is it's not 25 because the units is in inches, right? It's in feet and inches. So 25 is actually 2'1", right? We want to make sure that we're giving this the 25-foot mark. So again, 25, and then I want to put feet. Okay. And I can go ahead and click enter. This one, for sake of simplicity, we're going to make this 40 feet back this way, and we'll end back at our original starting point and hit escape to exit the command. So once again, I'll do this one more time real quick. Okay, line tool. I want to draw, I'm just going to draw one next to it. I'll delete it in a second, but I'm going to click here. I'm going to draw a line, move my mouse to the right. Again, I've got my ortho mode on, so I know I'm drawing straight. I'm going to type in 40 feet, move my mouse down because it's automatically drawing the next line. So 25 feet. 40 feet back, and 25 feet back up, just for any of you that didn't get that the first time, right? I'm going to go ahead and delete it so we don't have two. You don't need two, but just showing you once more. Any questions on drawing lines at this point? It's week 4. We should all be pretty comfortable with basic tools, but I know that everybody is different and everyone has their own set of challenges and whatnot. So if you are having an issue with something, or you need some help with, maybe you didn't get one part of a command, please speak up so that we don't continue to go on and you're still struggling with a basic command, right? So once I've drawn this, I can click on each one of these lines, and you'll notice that in the properties here on the left-hand side, it gives me some actual values, right? So it's got an X and a Y, an X and a Y, does everyone know what that means, right? Your X is your longitudinal and your Y is latitudinal, right? And so when you're doing an X and a Y, everything's based off of this quote unquote home right here, which home is down here at the origin, and this is 0, 0, 0, 0. That is the point. Okay, so this point here, okay, it's just saying, hey, it's 2,190 feet to the right of the origin, right? That's where it's starting. And its location is 9,308 feet up. Okay, that's all that those numbers mean. It just is giving you a location for where that actually lives on this drawing. Okay. But the important things that you want to look at might not necessarily where it starts and finishes in the X and Y, but down here, your deltas, right? So the delta is going to give you your actual length. Your delta X, right? It's going 40 feet in the X direction. This one here, since it's going up and down. right, it's going to go 0 feet in the X direction. Why? Because it's not moving left or right. This one's going up and down, and that's 25 feet in the Y direction, right? So it's going down 25 feet. So all of this information is here if you want to use it. The other thing right here is you've got a length. So if you don't, maybe you have something that is a line that's like this. Okay, and I'll turn my ortho off real fast. But maybe I've got something like this. It's a line. Now we're going to have some different stuff here, right? So we've got an angle on it. You've got a length of it. And the length isn't going to be the exact same as your delta, right? The delta X or delta Y, meaning the change in that value, right? So these are going to go, they're not moving straight left or straight right. So you're going to have a change in both X and Y, right? So, but the biggest thing right here, length. And up here, you're probably wondering, like, the information you'd want to look at here is probably what layer is this on, right? What layer, and then it's got some line type, parameters as well that allow you to change, your line type, your thickness, either by layer or by block or a continuous line type. All right, did someone else jump in? It looks like they did. So hold up, let me go back to the attendance real quick and get everybody checked in. So we had, and then who else walked in late? Right here, right? Cool, thank you. Is there anyone else that's on that I've missed? Oh, Brittany's here too, perfect.
Me.
Yep, I got you now, thank you. Zach and Charlie, neither of you here? All right. So let's look at this one more time. Again, last but not least, right? What I'm looking at right now is the length of this, right? It shows me it's 40 feet, but my drawing doesn't tell me that this is 40 feet, right? And when you put together a drawing, unless you want someone to take a scale rule or a scale, wheel, whatever you want to use, unless you want to actually scale it off or, put in your blue beam precision and your scale, you don't have any information available right there to tell you that that's 40 feet by 25. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually give it some dimensions. So I'm going to take this tool up here. It's a linear dimension. And I'm going to choose my left line and my right line. And you'll see when I bring this up that it says 40 feet right there. Now, with this scale of drawing, that 40 feet is really hard to read. It's really small. Okay, and by default, this dimension is 2 inches. So I've given you 3 different dim styles or dimension styles. And what that means is if I change this here in the properties from dimension 2 inch to dimension 6 inch, now we have a dimension that is easy to read when you see the full drawing, right? So again, I made sure that this was a 6 inch dimension, and it blew it up so that way we could actually see it. So what that means by a 6 inch dimension, if this like plotted out full scale, this 40 would be 6 inches tall, right? So it's actually got some height to it. Whereas when we do annotations that aren't in a scale, a lot of times we're looking at like 3/32 of an inch. So depending on if it's an annotative drawing or if it's a normal CAD style drawing, and we'll get into that later. But for now, we're just going to use this 6 inch dimension. Okay. So by default, every time I hit that dimension, it's going to bring back up the 2 inch dimension. And that's because right here under annotation, we have dim 2 inch selected here. So if we click this drop down under the annotation tab, and this little drop down to the right of the annotation, again, we're in the home tab and then the third section over, right, in the ribbon. And when we click this drop down, we can then change either the text size, which we'll get into in a little bit, or the dimension size. And this is going to set your dimension size for what the standard is, right? So every time you come up here, it's going to make it a 6-inch dimension. So from one corner to the other, bring that up, and you can see right there, that's 40 feet. Very easy to read. And I'll do one more from this corner to the bottom corner here. And that guy is 25 feet. Is there anyone that doesn't have a 40-foot by 25-foot rectangle with dimensions on it? Okay, cool. I'll be right back. Maybe sit in there. Okay. Oh, you didn't say that this one. That's exactly the point. So, are you good for a second? I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. So, if anyone's having issues with getting their lines the right length, right? So, I just came in here and I gave it a direction of drawing to the right, and I typed in 40 feet. Now, if I type in 40 feet in the command line, but I still use my mouse to click, okay, it might take it, it might not. But it looked like earlier on another computer, they typed in 40 feet, and when they clicked, it set the dimension to wherever they clicked. So instead of clicking when you type a dimension in, anytime you are in the command line, we want to hit that enter button. And that's going to say, hey, I want this to be 40 feet long, enter. And then I want to draw it down 25 feet, enter, right? So we're not using our mouse. Our mouse is going to try to click elsewhere, and whereas the command and an enter is giving it a direction. You gave it a direction, you gave it a length, and you said go, right? Any other questions on that? Thank you for bringing that up. Can't get your dimension. Okay, let's take a look. So, so you got it. Just hit escape, and then but you made this is a huge dimension. So you can click it, and you can change it right here, but that's going to change it in this one instance. Okay, so if we delete this, like, yep, yep. And then now we go to this drop down, and now we change this to getting 6 inches. That now becomes our standard. And so now this dimension, and then we'll put the corner. I clicked the linear division. So I clicked. Drag it up, and then
Would you do to get them cut up?
Okay, I'll just demo it real quick one more time. Okay, so if you're having trouble with the dimensions, okay, there might be a couple different things going on. First, by default, like I showed earlier, it had this 2-inch dimension here. Okay, so maybe you got this dimension, but it's really, really small. Okay, let's take that dimension, delete it, and let's go up here to this annotation drop down, and let's change the default from dim 2 inches to dim 6 inches. Okay, so that's step one. Okay, I'll delete both these dimensions. Step two, I am using this linear dimension tool, not the dimension with the sunrise. Okay, so there's all types of different tools. What this one does right here with the sun on it is it tries to pick the best one for you. Okay, and that's not always the best option. Okay, so I use aligned, linear. Okay, both of these work the same way. Um, you're just able to like dimension a diagonal item with a line instead of it having to be perpendicular, like 90-degree corners. And then I'll also use like radius if I need to, right? But just clicking this dimension button, it's now down here. It says dim, right? It doesn't tell me what type of dim this is. It just says select objects. So if I like click on this line, right, it's automatically trying to put that there, which is cool. Okay, but it's automatically trying to put these in. Okay, and maybe I don't want that, right? So I always like to tell it what I want. I typically will again choose this align dimension and then go corner to corner. Okay, same thing again here from corner to corner, and I'll move. And when you set that dimension, we click the first corner, the second corner, drag the dimension left or right, depending on where you want it to go, and then just click into any space that's not like highlighted green. Okay, once it highlights green, it's trying to like snap right on top of something else. We just want to drag it out and set it. And we can always adjust this later by clicking on it and bringing this in or out, whatever we need to do, right? Just to keep your drawing nice and clean. Are there any questions with dimensions? Is everyone able to get a dimension in the X direction of 40 feet and a Y direction of 25 feet? All right. And they should all be legible or readable right from this. You shouldn't have to zoom way in on that dimension. So make sure we're using that 6-inch dimension. All right. So that's the basics of a lot of AutoCAD, right? A lot of CAD work, a lot of what you do, you draw something out, and a lot of times you're going to know what you want to draw, right? I know that I wanted to draw that 40 feet over, right? Maybe you don't know that information, but you want to get close. That's fine too, right? You can always adjust it if you have information later. The biggest thing though is it's the basic concept of you draw what you need and then we go and dimension it. We go and annotate it. We go drop in whatever other parts we need. But this dimensioning process is super vital to creating drawings that actually make sense, right? If you drew everything up, but you didn't have any dimensions on it, and then you gave it to a builder to build, how do you do this, right? So we want to make sure that we are giving, all the information we can in our drawings. All right, ready for the next fun part? Cool. So how might we make a wall? So let's take this outside edge, okay? And that's going to be the exterior of our house, okay? How might we make an interior wall without drawing a bunch of lines?
Copy.
Copy, okay? Not a bad idea, right? And since I know
Offset to a specific wall width.
bingo, okay? So what Zach just said was offset to a specific wall width. And what that means is instead of me copying this line 4 inches down or 6 inches down to make that exterior wall on the north side, right? Essentially what it's going to do is it's going to take all of my walls and give me a copy 6 inches in or a copy 6 inches out. Okay, so let's look at how to do that. So we're going to use our offset tool. And one thing that you want to make sure, the very, very first thing is it's asking you a question down here. It's saying, hey, specify the offset distance or through erase layer. We want a 6-inch offset. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now it's going to say, hey, select the objects in which you want to offset. Okay. And since we drew this with a line, right, not a polyline or a actual rectangle, each one of these walls is its own entity. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and then I'm going to move my mouse to the inside, and you'll see that that offset to the inside. You can go ahead and then just click the next item, right? The next outside wall, and click on the inside again. The bottom one, and click on the inside, and the left one. And I'll do this one more time. Okay. And then we're going to look at drawing this with a rectangle or a polyline and what advantages we can have when we don't have individual line segments. Okay, so right now, I'll do this one more time. Okay, I'm going to just grab all of these inside lines and delete them. And that essentially was exactly what we were talking about, right? Where you take a line and you copy it 6 inches down, you copy it 6 inches in, you copy it 6 inches up, right? Same concept. And since these were all individual line segments, we had to do it 4 times, right? One per line. So let's do that one more time. Again, it's going to ask to specify a distance. Since I already specified 6 inches, it remembers that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say enter. That's what I want. Select the object. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click the line that I want to offset. And then what direction. So I only have 2 options here. I can either move it up or down. And we want to move everything to the inside, right? So in this case, it would be down, right? Same thing here. When I choose this line to offset, I want to move it to the left or the inside. Same thing with the bottom and the very left. I see some head shaking. Are you getting that? No. Okay. Give me 1 second. You need to make sure that when you enter something in the command line, you need to tell it that you've entered this. It doesn't just know that just because 6 inches are in there without hitting enter, it is still looking for some input from you. That work? Okay, so we've already been through it. Yeah, but you still need to say, it's still asking you to verify the line. So you now click the line. Now, nope, you don't need to tell it. Click. Move your mouse to the left. Click. That's right. And then escape to get out of command. All right. So with this method, okay, we now have to come here and in order to get this all cleaned up, we would now need to come in here and use our trim tool. And we can cut these little excess lines out of there. And you'll just go around to the 8 lines that are crossing the wall. And we'll just delete those by using our trim tool. And escape to exit. So that wasn't painful, right? But it wasn't the most streamlined process. So let's take a look at this as an actual rectangle instead of a wall that was drawn with a bunch of individual lines. So if I go to this rectangle, choose rectangle, I want to specify here, click the first point. Then I want to specify, let's see, specify other corner or width. Sorry, let's go back. I want to do width, and I'm going to specify that I want the width to be 40 feet. Oh, what's he trying to do to me? That's wild. That's weird. Something very interesting. Well, we're going to delete that, and we'll try to do this with a polyline instead. So a polyline, okay, is the same as a line, except the difference is when you have individual segments in a normal line, one of them will select at a time. When you have a polyline, you can actually grab all of those segments at once. So Same thing as before. Okay, I'm going to turn my ortho on, which it is. I'm going to start here. I'm going to drag this 40 feet to the right. I'm going to drag this 25 feet down, 40 feet back over, and we'll end it right there, the endpoint. Now I could go and dimension this again, and just for practice, we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'll click the align dimension. Again, I'm going to click my top corner and then click my other top corner, bring that 40 feet up. And then last but not least, we'll go ahead and dimension the other width or the other, right, the depth. So 25 feet by 40 feet. So, but this time you notice when I have my mouse on here and it hits one of these lines, only one line will highlight at a time. Okay. When I hover over this polyline, that whole thing highlights. Okay. So when you're making an exterior of a house, and again, it doesn't need to be straight, right? I could have done this same thing with the polyline. I'll just do this one more time over here. We don't need to make this. You guys don't need to worry about making this one, but I'm going to make one more example and you'll see why in a second. So 15 feet. Let's go 10 feet. Let's go 5 feet. Let's go 10, 15 feet. 5. Let's go 8 feet. 15 feet and then back. All right. So with the polyline, and it doesn't matter if it's a rectangle or any type of other, other type of shape, right? We can use this offset and we only have to do one move. So I'm going to click this offset. Again, I had already specified that it was 6 inches, but I need to tell it, yes, I want it to be 6 inches. And now, if I hover over this rectangle and then move my mouse to the inside after I've clicked, you'll notice that it created an offset and we don't have to go back and trim anything because we don't have any other lines that need to be offset, right? So this whole line individually offset. Well, now when both of these offset together, it knows that corner's there and it's not going to allow those to cross. So it keeps that nice and clean. Same thing on this kind of a weird shape, right? If I go ahead and click this offset, maybe this one I only want to, let's do a 4.5 inch wall. Okay. Select the object offset and the direction we want it to offset. Now we've got an exterior wall that is uniform all the way around, right? We didn't have to do a whole lot of extra work by copying lines or offsetting individual lines and trimming them back together. Okay, so this is a really powerful tool. Something that I highly suggest you try to utilize in this class, especially when we do have some kind of funky shapes. This polyline is a great tool. Okay, and it allows you to offset everything together. And say you needed to delete the inside offset, you can delete it. You could stretch it. Maybe I needed one wall specifically, and I'll take this and align dimension real quick between this wall and this wall. Oh, and it wanted to do a line between the points. I don't want it on the points. So sometimes when I've got two vertical lines, I'll just go ahead and make sure that I use the linear tool. And now I can go line to line and it'll go ahead and show me exactly without trying to skew that dimension. So say this wall in particular, I wanted to be, a 6 inch depth. Okay. I could take this and now that I've got a dimension on there that's hooked to it, I can drag this and it will update with it, right? So there's 7. Right? So we could play with this a little bit, right? Drag it in. Now we could also set another line and align it to it, okay? Which is what I'm going to do here. So instead of playing this game where let's make this wall 6 inches, and I take this and I'm always constantly moving this in and out. Let's back up a step and think about what else what have we learned? Well, sometimes you need to just go ahead and make a line a certain length so you know where that location is. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and make a line. I'm just going to make a line up here. And now that I know that that's there, I can make a line off of that. 6 inches over. 6 inches. And then I'll make a line straight down. And now I can use my align tool to, where are you? Line. Oh, you're down here. It's hidden in the bottom drop down window. Anyhow, align on the in the command line, and we can select what we want. Over line, select object. So this is what I want to align. This is going haywire. Okay, and then find the source point, and I want to align it there. Okay, and it should allow me to move over. I wonder if it doesn't like to do this because it's an offset. It wants to move the whole thing. Just show you this with a normal. So I'll just move this back to 6 inches, right? And that's another thing you can do. You can always draw a line that's 6 inches long. And then now when you take this guy, you've got something to snap to, right? So you can actually just drag this. And now you know that that's a 6-inch wall, right? So if you draw your own little construction line, then you can move that or slide it around and you know the exact dimension, right? Rather than having to play that game, guess and check. All right. Any questions on offset? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one. We're not going to be working with this one. I just wanted to show that no matter what the shape was, right, whether the wall was inset 3 feet or, maybe it's a porch area, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That offset is still going to keep that consistent spacing all the way around. All right, so let's go ahead and start looking at layers. Okay, so we drew this by default on layer 0, right? I didn't want to get into layers right at the beginning. I wanted to get you drawing, get you going. Okay, so but what I want to do now is I actually want to take these walls and put them on the exterior wall layer. So to do that, I can go ahead and select one. And if I just go ahead and click the next one, it'll automatically add that to my selection set. So I don't have to hold control or anything. If I want to deselect it, I can hold shift and deselect it. Okay, but if I want to just select it, I can just keep clicking. Just keep clicking things, right? And it'll just keep adding those to your selection set. The whole box? Well, this one is my one that I made with the polyline, right? So this one here, since it's a polyline, the whole thing will select, right? If you need to, if you still have just the individual lines, you need to select all of them. You can go ahead and click down here to the bottom left, drag up to the top right, and then select them like that. So you can window select it instead of having to click them individually. Okay. So, but we're going to go ahead and change the layer on. So I'm going to go ahead and select these two. Right now, the material is by layer. That's what we want. We want the color by layer as well. That's going to actually inherit the color that the layer is. We just want to make this onto the actual exterior wall layer. So if I select these two, go to properties and choose exterior walls, okay, I can now put those on that layer. And you'll see that up here in the top in your ribbon, that when you select them, you are on that exterior wall layer, right? You can see that in the ribbon up here. You can also see that in your properties that you're on the exterior wall layer. Okay, but you'll notice once you hit escape, or once you go to do another command, maybe I want to start drawing another line. What layer does that line draw on?
0.
0, right? Because you haven't told it that you want to change the current layer that you're on. In this ribbon, in the layers area, okay, if we take this drop down and we click on exterior walls, that exterior wall layer is now the layer that I'm going to be drawing on. So any new content I draw automatically on that layer. And that's because right here, I've got exterior walls chosen as my current layer. Okay. We can also go to the layer properties and we'll get in here a little bit more, but you can tell that this is the current layer because it's got a checkbox next to it, a little green check mark showing you that this is the current layer.
Because we have the drawing highlighted, we made that our exterior walls layer.
We changed, okay, so we changed it, correct. So, but since so all we did is we selected those two, changed the layer, but now anything new you drew, since you didn't change the actual physical layer that you're the current layer, right? So we don't want to have to go back all the time, like draw everything on layer 0 and then constantly be selecting them and changing whatever layer we need to go to, okay? You want to try and utilize these layers as much as possible from the beginning. So let's say that I wanted to go draw some walls or some windows in here, which is what we're going to go ahead and do. So what might I want to do before I draw my windows? We've got all the layers that you need for this class already built for you. Okay. So it's in there. It's right here. It's green. Okay. And now that shows right here as my current layer. Okay. But it didn't affect any of these, right? Because I didn't have that selected, right? I didn't have those selected. I wasn't changing the exterior walls, right? I want to keep that exterior walls on that layer. And the beauty of layers, okay, is layers allow you to turn items on and off. So we can turn off an entire layer at a time. We can freeze it, we can thaw it, there's all types of different things here that if I take this, we'll make Windows is my current layer. So if I take this one here on exterior walls and turn the layer off, you can see you don't see those walls anymore, right? But they're not gone. They're just on a layer that isn't currently visible, as shown right here by the light bulb being off. Okay, when we turn those back on, let's go back to turn those back on. There we go. They come back, right? So a lot of times, maybe you'll be using some lines to make construction lines, and we're going to go into that in a second. Maybe you'll be wanting some dimensions on a layer. So that way you can keep your drawing tidy. Maybe you don't always want to be having those dimensions on while you're working, right? So you can turn things off temporarily and bring them back on. So let's go ahead and take our dimensions and select both of those. And in the properties, change the layer from 0 to dimensions and anode. Okay, now you'll notice it didn't change color, right? Because it's still the white color is my color for dimensions and anode and for layer 0, right? But you'll see now when I select this, it's on the dimensions and annotations layer. Okay, so now if I don't want my annotations and dimensions on, boom, turn them off. We got a clean slate to work. When you want to come back and tidy up your drawing or whatever, when you're ready to dimension again, turn them back on. Okay, so it's that simple. You've got layers that you can turn on and off depending on what you want to see. Are there any questions about layers and just essentially their basic use? I did because we already placed them. Right. So I just selected them. And then I went here. Right. Because this up here is your current layer. This is what your current layer is. On your properties is the layer, and it will show you whatever the properties are of that specific item. So we just, since they were already on layer 0, we just selected them and went to the properties and said, hey, we want these on dimensions and anode. Yeah. Any other questions about layers? Okay, ultimately, they're there to help you. They're not there to hurt you. So let's look into why we use them. Okay, and you'll see really quickly that layers serve a lot of really cool purposes when you start to actually make construction lines and you start to draw stuff on here just so you can get a place. Right. So I don't always want to dimension, where this window is just for me to draw it. So I'm going to go ahead and change my current layer to construction. Okay. So now anything I draw is going to be on the construction layer. Now I know that this is a 40-foot wall on the backside, right? On the exterior, it's going to be 30, if that's a 6-inch, it's going to be 39 feet inside, right? So maybe I want this first window to start, 6 feet away from this edge, right? And the easiest way to do that is just to draw a 6-foot line. So I'll draw this 6 foot and hit enter. And then maybe I'll come draw it down there. And I like to draw it across so then that way you can see it. You can kind of see the yellow on top of the blue, but it's really hard to see that, right? So, but if you draw a line going the other way, now we've got an edge of a window. And we know this location is 6 feet, right? So since we know that location, okay, now I can start drawing a window. So I'm going to go ahead and draw using a polyline. I'm going to change to the window layer. And I'm going to draw a window that is, let's call it 4 feet. And then I'm just going to draw it here, bring it back here, and bring it up to here, something like that. And now when I turn off my construction layer, I've got that window placed in a location that I know where it's at, right? Without having to put a whole bunch of dimensions in at the beginning. Okay, so, and then maybe I can take this whole thing and maybe I want the exact same thing on this other side. So what might we need to do? Mirror it. Okay, so what do we need to do next though so we know where to mirror it? Draw a line, right? So again, back to our construction work set, or sorry, if I say work set, it means layer. Okay, Revit is work sets, AutoCAD's layers. So same thing. I just sometimes slip up because I work in that environment 99.9% of the time. Okay, but it's the same for our purposes. It's the same thing. A work set and a layer is just something you can turn on and off to show its visibility. Layers have a lot more control with colors and that kind of stuff, whereas that's done a little bit differently in Revit. So in order to find that middle, again, I could probably try and mirror using the mirror command, try to find that midpoint. But again, I really like visuals. It's really easy for me to grab a midpoint, draw a small little construction line, and now I can take this window, use my mirror command, and I've got a window that's now mirrored across center, right? And now maybe I'm done with the windows back there. So I could come back to construction, change from construction to dimensions. And now I can come in here and maybe dimension these windows, right? And now one thing real quick, just because I like shortcuts. If you're doing a command over and over again, like this, I'm gonna put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dimensions on this. Okay. They don't, unfortunately, the way AutoCAD works doesn't allow you to continue a dimension string. Well, you can do. You can continue the dimension string, but you can't do it just by dragging this or just by clicking on it and editing it. So what you can do, there's two ways to do this. One, I've got this one dimension now. I can right click here on the corner and say continue dimension. And if I do that, then it's going to continue adding dimensions to this item. Kind of cool. But now my next dimension is coming from here, and I don't really like that. Okay. So I'm going to make these individual just for the sake of simplicity and showing you the enter command. So
Oh.
right click. So if you see, did you get it? So you need to select the dimension, then move to the corner, and then this will come up, right? So you can do dimension strings. I love dimension strings. It makes things nice and neat and clean. However, if you need to do individual dimensions, right? Let's just do this once again. And if I use my dimension tool, right? Linear, 1, 2, set it. Okay, enter. Now that command is done, right? If I hit enter on my keyboard, it will automatically do the last command that you just did. So if we need to dimension this, like, and last but not least, you can come back in here and actually snap those arrowheads together if you want to. So that way it stays clean. And back to enter, right? I didn't do a different command between it. It's going to go back to dim linear. So if you need to do a command over and over again, you can hit that enter button and it will automatically repeat the last command. And now I've got some dimensions there. And when I turn off my construction lines, I got a pretty neat little drawing, right? Not neat as in it's super cool, neat as in it's cleaned up. You can see what's going on. Huh? Exactly. One other thing you'll notice is that I try to keep my dimensions tight, not necessarily right on the item, right? But I don't want to pull this, way far away. I want to keep the reader, right? Whoever's looking at this drawing, I want to keep their attention at the drawing, not having to look way up or way down to go find a different dimension. Or so if you can keep it close, that's the best thing. All right, so let's draw some more windows utilizing our construction line to make some construction lines to make some locations for windows. So I'm going to go ahead, draw one down. I'll go ahead and go 4 feet here. And then maybe, and that's the cool thing about construction lines. It's still into drawing the next one. So if I made this cross here, right, I can draw my next one at 6 feet. And I could just keep going, right? And so when I come to actually draw my windows later, I have these locations of my endpoints. All right, let's go ahead and draw 3 feet down. And then let's make like a big old 8-foot window here. All right, and now I can come to my polyline, change my layer before I start drawing. Again, you can always change it on the back end, but if you get in the habit of looking at your layer before you draw, things are a lot neater. Okay, and you'll have a lot better success of knowing what you're looking at, right? Sometimes you draw a construction line. Oh, crap, that was actually the edge of the window, but I didn't draw a window there, right? So just make sure that you're being aware of what layer you're drawing on. And then I'm going to draw a polyline from here to here to here to here. Okay. And want one more here. Okay, something like that. Okay, now again, we can go ahead, go back to our dimensions and annotations layer, and then gives these some actual dimensions. And if you do this first one and you do everything in order, you can just keep adding dimensions. So if you use the continue dimension, it's best to just start at one end and work your way down. So now I'll click next point, next point, next point, next point, and just because I sometimes don't want to make you add everything up, I'll give you, and I know it's on the other side, but I'll give an overall dimension and I'll just pull that right just to the right of it. So, right, so you've got your individual dimensions of the windows and the spacing between them, as well as your overall dimension of the wall right there. And then you can come here, and if you want to turn off that construction layer, we're back to a pretty neat drawing. Okay, so utilizing those layers is key to being able to draw little lines for construction so you know where things are and then not have to always go back and delete them, right? That's one thing that's always a tedious task is if you draw a construction line that's not on that layer and you turn that layer off, now you've got lines, right? Extra lines. So if you can consistently go back to your construction, keep current layer on and let it do its thing, right? Now we can draw, we're on the construction layer and all of our marks are going to be able to be hidden very easily when we turn that layer off. All right, so I want you to go ahead and we're going to take a 5-minute break. And when we get back, I'd like you to place windows. I want 3 windows on the left-hand side, and I want 2 windows on the south side, kind of roughly in this position. You could even mirror these if you wanted to, right? Let's do that. Let's mirror these two. So again, I'm going to put myself on the construction, draw a quick little detail line showing me where center is, and I'll mirror these two down low. So using my mirror command, I want to mirror about this line. And no, I don't want to erase the source object. All right, so 3 windows of your size and spacing on the left-hand wall. So take break. We'll get back to it. Maybe meet back up at like 7:10, and we'll move forward with the next portion.
It's fine. You're on construction.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's your lines to do your construction lines are just our lines that you use so that way when you're detailing other items you can measure off of them or you have a known location.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Yeah, I just checked Canvas and it says like my grade in attendance is 75%.
Did you join late today?
A little bit.
Okay, well that's why, because I
Yeah.
marked you
Uh,
absent.
yeah. Apologies for that.
No worries.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, there you go.
I also joined like 20 minutes late.
Okay, if you guys join late, you gotta let me know, right? Because
Okay.
I don't see you jump on. I'm looking at a screen trying to, you know, I'm not looking at all your faces on the Zoom or your accounts. So if you do jump in late, please let me know so I can mark you as present.
Can we just send you chat you up or just interrupt
No,
that?
I want you to just use your voice and talk to me.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Cool.
I don't see those chats either. It's another window, it's another screen, right?
Mm. Then
Communicate.
okay. Let's try to avoid to interrupt the flow of the
Yeah,
class.
no worries. But if you're here, just
Okay.
say, "Hey, Mr. Thompson, I'm here," or whatever, or "Hey,
Okay.
Graham, I'm here." Like I don't care. You're saying I want to make sure that you get checked in,
Okay.
right? But I don't care about being interrupted for a second to let me know you're here. I'd rather
All
make
right.
sure that you get checked in than me mark you absent. You were here, and you're like, "Well,
Hmm.
I was there that day," and it's like, I didn't see you. I didn't mark you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if
Got
you're
it.
late, just communicate. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Here, let me do this real quick. I don't want you to not have a mouse that works. So let me snag one. Oh, nope, that's not gonna work because that's USB. It's wireless, but it still needs a normal dongle. Sorry. Yeah, just please try to bring a mouse if you're gonna have a lot more success. So anyhow, we can still look at what. So you can do it. Yeah, no problem. And you can just get a little Bluetooth one for pretty cheap. Like they're $10 now. Three of your size and location is fine. And then let's go ahead and dimension the windows on the front and the left-hand side. Please. And on the windows on the front, let's just dimension from the outside edge. So like give the width of your window as well as the spacing to the left or right, depending on which window it is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to leave this front unobstructed. So all right. So I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to wrap that up. And then we're going to start looking at some interior walls and potentially a front door. And just to clean it up, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my construction lines. And now we're just left with the blue and green and white. Are you ready to move on, or do we need a couple more minutes? Okay, no problem. We'll give until like 7:15, so like 3 more minutes or so, if that's cool.
Hey Graham.
Yes.
When we go to put these on paper space, um, it yeah.
You
So
don't see anything.
it ends up with the what do you call it? Your tile block, your on the right hand side, your
Yeah,
header.
the title block. This.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the original one, we created it so it was on the bottom, but you want us to use this format, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. We're not going to be putting things on paper space until we really need to put together the final project.
Oh,
So
so when we turn in our assignments, it doesn't need to have the
you don't need it
title
to be on
block
the
and all
title
that?
block. Nope, not at all.
Oh, heck. Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. If you want to, you can, but this title block doesn't have a viewport built into it yet. So I'm gonna update our template. Um, Actually, we're gonna all update our template in like 2 weeks, and then we're gonna put a viewport into this and then start utilizing the title block. But
Okay.
for now, we're just working in this model space. A title block is one of those things that like you should know how to draw. We drew it, we kind of made our own, but that's something that you're not really gonna do over and over, right? And you might utilize a title block, but it's already gonna be all set up. So we're gonna set that up in 2 weeks.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, on
So
the last assignment, that was kicking my butt a little bit, trying to
okay,
turn
yeah,
it in on that.
no worries. Well, the reason being is there's no, so here let's walk through this. This is a great topic for a second. While we give people some time to finish up their windows. Um, if I if I type in view port and I bring this viewports window up, I can create a single viewport. And I'm going to create a single viewport in the inside window. So like essentially right here, down here. So you'll see it's going to say, hey, where do you want to start this? I'm actually going to hover over the corner here and then grab this circle. And that's going to give me a kind of a nice starting point. And then I'll probably just make it something like that. And once I do that, now I've got a viewport into the model space. So I can click into it. Now I'm in model space, blow that up. Right now I got a drawing in paper space that looks somewhat decent.
Okay.
And
Got
I
it.
can
Thanks.
and I can turn my grid off and then why is my grid? Oh, because it was on here. So let's turn that off. So there you go. Something like that. But that's how we would get that, right? Is you need to just build that viewport into the title block. Otherwise, you don't have a way to access model space.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to have it just the white paper, without like the X, Y, and the um like our compass at the top and stuff, and it
Oh,
was
that won't print.
struggling.
Well, that won't print.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
none
just
of
there for the showing.
that's just there when you're in it, yeah, to show you you're in the view. That won't print. So if I've actually tried to print
Okay.
this and like let's go to I'll just do a PDF D full size, I think is what we're using. And print to PDF. And it is going to be layout. That's what I want. Where is my orientation?
You're in landscape. It's bottom right corner above cancel.
Oh, there it is right there. Thank you. I hate it. It's like, show me it in the right spot. Just,
Yeah.
okay. So I can do something like that. It'll print. Desktop here. Let's just go put this in the folder. Okay. Guess it's not going to show up. Good. And now when this pops up, Bluebeam, here's what my PDF drawing would actually look like. And it looks like there's something that happened in my scaling issue. Okay, so something happened there, but you can see that the all those little items that you were seeing in the model space do not print. I don't know why this
Okay,
block's
got it.
all screwed up. But yeah, don't worry about any of that. You should just get a nice blank white area around your drawing when you print.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some interior walls. So the first interior wall I want to draw it 2 feet away from this window. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize my construction work set and draw a line that is, you guessed it, 2 feet away. And now I've got a place to start my wall. All right. So before I go any farther, I want to make sure that I'm drawing on the right layer. So I'm going to move construction back, or not back, but 2 interior walls, right? We haven't been on this layer yet. Okay. And we're going to draw an interior wall using this starting point. And maybe we'll come down like 15 feet. And I'll just make that its own room. So there we go. 15 feet, hit escape. Okay, and again, so I probably should have drawn this with a polyline. I'm going to go ahead and do that actually, because I think that that's something that's worthwhile when you are drawing your walls, because if you use a polyline, you can then utilize the offset command and not have to do it multiple times and trim things back together. So I'm going to delete that and draw a polyline, not just a normal line, from the same spot down 15 feet and straight over. Now, when I make my interior wall of 4 inches, go to my offset, tell it I want a 4-inch wall. This is the object I want to offset. And then do I want that wider or inside? And I want to take that out. Okay, so that's our first of our interior walls. Okay, we're going to draw a few more of them. Don't be upset if we don't get to doors tonight. We will get there next week if we don't get it all the way. All right. 4 inches. So your typical interior partition is about 4 inches, depending. I mean, it all depends on your fire rating and whatnot, but 4 inches is it's a 3.5 inch stud, right? With rock on both sides, roughly. I mean, maybe it's 4 1/4, maybe it's 4 3/8, right? For this class, I like to just keep numbers whole and simple. Okay. So, and I'm not trying to, we're not going to go into the detail of us drawing studs and drawing drywall and drawing all of the different nuances that you may have in that wall section, right? For now, we're just looking at this as a 4-inch wall. And if you wanted to later, I mean, we can look at this, but we could come here, right, and on that interior wall. And if you want to make it nice and thick, you want to see that, we could come in here with a solid and give that a hatch, right? Oh, not the outside, but there you go. And now you've got a wall that kind of stands out, represents that wall. Same thing, right? Out here, we could do that hatching on the windows, on the exterior wall. For now, we're not going to worry about it. But once we build window blocks, that's what's going to be coming next week is our blocks. So instead of drawing everything one line at a time, we're going to bring something over that has a full window associated. So you can drag and drop that. So you can draw a construction line and then just drag your window and drop it on it, and you not have to draw it each time. So when we do that, maybe we'll hatch those, right? So they show a little bit more full. Okay, so do I need this hatch? No, I'm actually going to undo the hatching on it just because, but that is an option, right? If you need to see that a little thicker, right, by all means, you can go ahead and hatch those interior. Just be sure that when you are hatching that, you are on the right layer, the same layer that wall and our window is on. So when you turn the layer off, those go together. It will also inherit the color based on that layer too. Okay. All right, so back to construction lines. And let's draw a line that is, let's draw a line that's 4 feet from the bottom corner. Now this time, okay, I'm going to draw a line. I'm not going to draw a polyline. The reason being is the line that I'm about to draw is going to bisect the entire building, right? So it's going to go all the way over. So there's not going to be a turn in it. There's not going to be multiple lines. There's just going to be one. Okay, so I'm going to draw from here straight over. And now to make this wall thickness, I'm just going to offset it, right? You can use a polyline, but there's no reason to because there's only one line segment. Okay. And again, you could offset it. You could also, if you wanted to, just copy with this base point and tell it you want to copy it 4 inches, right? There's always multiple ways to do something. Okay. And last but not least, we'll put in one more wall right here. So I'm going to go back to the construction line or construction layer, draw a line. And this time I'm just going to draw a line off the midpoint of this wall. And actually, since we already have the midpoint of that wall right there, and that's where I want to draw it off of, let's just go ahead and start drawing straight on the interior walls layer. We don't need to make a construction line in this case. Okay. If I wanted a certain distance out there, maybe I would need to, but since I know I just want it centered, it knows where center is. So we can draw another, again, line, polyline, doesn't matter. Okay, there's really only a need for a line in this instance. And we're just going to draw that straight down. And I can use my offset, 4 inches. And I want to go to the left. So now we have some basic walls. Interior walls, some exterior walls. We got some windows. All right, and if I turn the construction layer off, that gets a little cleaner again. But you'll notice one thing that's kind of going on here. What do we see with these walls? Would we see an end like this in the wall? Typically not. I mean, it's going to be framed. So I'm going to utilize my trim command and get rid of this midline right there and this midline right here. And now all of the walls, if I were to actually use my hatch feature, and I'm going to do this at this point now that I've got my interior walls all drawn. Okay, if I use my hatch feature, now all of these interior walls will hatch together, right? Because there's nothing dividing them, saying that this wall is separate from this wall. Okay, and so now there's the hatch, and we now have an entire wall system that is all connected. And maybe you wanted to, and you could always do something like this too, right? If you didn't want, maybe you wanted that hatch to be on its own layer. We could build a new layer and have that hatching only turn on when we want hatching to turn on, right? So that's an option too. So don't feel like you're restricted just because these are the layers that are there. If you want to add another layer at any time, by all means, you can come to here and click this layer properties and this new layer button, and let's call this hatching. Or maybe I'll call it interior hatching. And now that layer is created, close the layer manager, select that hatch, and then instead of it being on interior walls, it can be on interior hatching. Close the hatch editor. And now if I want that hatch to go away, I simply just turn off my interior. And now they're controlled separately. If I want them on, great. If not, now I can just see it in line work. Okay. So there's options, right? Use the layers to help you. And they don't always have to be on all the time. Like a lot of times I'll have, 30 or 40 layers or work sets. Maybe 5 of them will be on, right? Because I only want to see what I want to see at that particular point in time. I don't care about a lot of the other garbage that you're going to see in background models, right? We're drawing from scratch, which we don't have a lot of extra XREFs or background elements. But when you get all those on top of each other and it's just a mess, turning off the layers can at least start to alleviate some of that pain, and you can start to see what you're focused on. Especially when you get anything from like Sybil with topographical maps or plans that have lines all over the place. It just makes it almost impossible for you to see what you're trying to look at with all that turned on. So working with some of these work sets and or layers in this case is a good thing to have, be able to have that ability to turn that off, turn it on, see what you want to see what you don't. Okay. So it looks like we've got time, just enough time. We might get like a little late tonight, but it won't be late. But I want to go ahead and draw some doors. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a door on the exterior wall right here. We're going to draw a front door. So before I go anywhere, I want to be on my construction layer. I want to make it current. And I'm just going to draw a line over something like this. I want 3 feet from that wall. And then I know that I want my door to be, it's an exterior door, so I want this to be a 3-foot door as well. And just because I want to give it a little bit more room for clearance when that door opens up. So in case it swings all the way back, I'm going to move this over like 6 inches. All right. So now we got a 3-foot opening, space 3'6" away from this interior wall. So now that we've got construction lines on there, let's go ahead and change our layer to our doors layer. And draw us a door. So first thing with the door is you've got a couple things. You've got the door jamb that you need to represent, which is the opening. So we're just going to draw a little construction line, or sorry, a door line right over our construction line. Okay, so that gives us that 3-foot opening. Okay, we now have a door that is probably going to be about 1.5 inches thick, something like that. So let's come here to construction. Actually, since we know where we're starting, we can go ahead and draw on the doors layer. That's fine. And I'm going to draw a polyline that is 1.5 inches over. Three feet long. 1.5 inches over again. And back down to the door jamb. So we've got most of it, right? We've got our door. We've got a little bit of a jamb. I mean, we could make this a lot more detailed, right? I'm not looking for something crazy fancy. I'm just looking for something that represents what we're trying to show. Okay, so we've got the door, right? That's open. You always see a door being open in an architectural plan. The reason is why? Why do you see it open? So you know which way it goes. So we can see the swing, right? So in order to create this swing, we're going to utilize our 3-point arc. Now, there's one thing that we need to know that we don't know right now, and that is where this midpoint needs to be. So if this door was swinging open, right, this midpoint would be 3 feet away. Well, if I draw a line from just here to here, right, I'll take my ortho off. Is that midpoint going to be 3 feet away? No, right? That midpoint, if I go to that's 2 foot 1.5, right? So we can't just take a line and connect the two of them. We need to actually do a little bit of creativity. Now, I don't want to do a lot of math on this. I don't think that that's worth it. Okay. But what I do want to do is draw a line. Okay. That's the same distance. Draw a line. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this line at 3 feet long. Now that I know this is 3 feet, okay, I'm going to rotate it. Now, I could have drawn this line from here to here and rotated it. I just wanted to be in some clear space so you could see what I was doing. And I'm going to use my rotate command. So I'm going to take this, rotate in my command line. It says choose a base point. I want to choose this bottom base point. And I want to rotate it 45 degrees to the right. Okay, now sometimes that doesn't really work the way that you think it should because it's actually taking it and saying, hey, now we want this line to be 45 degrees. It's a funky system. However, no matter what you do, we now have a 45 degree, right? So we could take this and we could move it and mirror it. We could just mirror it and move it. Doesn't matter, but I'm going to use that method. So mirror. I'm going to choose the line I want to mirror about, which is this one. Erase a source object. Yes, I do want to erase a source object because I don't want that anymore. And now I can take this line and move it to where my door and my door jamb connect. Now I've got point 1 at 3 feet from the door jamb, point 2 at 3 feet from the door jamb at a 45 degree angle, and point 3 at 3 feet from the door jamb at a vertical angle, right? Or a true 90. So when I come here and take this arc tool using a 3-point arc, it says, hey, specify the start point of the arc. Okay. Specify the second point of the arc. Okay. Specify the third point of the arc. And there we go. And last but not least, you could take this little line and delete it. And now we've got something that, looks like a door jamb. If we wanted to put in a line that goes, sometimes you see them like this. See the door. This isn't really accurate because the door doesn't kind of goes halfway in. That's why I typically leave this out. But I'll leave it like that. So, and then we can delete these if you want to, right? Because this is going to end up being, this is no longer going to be the door jamb, right? This is actually going to be an opening in this exterior wall. So let's go ahead and make this exterior wall. And now I can trim out this middle piece. And trim out this middle piece. And we now have a door opening at the front of our building. Okay, I know that was a few steps, but unfortunately, that's what we need to do in AutoCAD until we start getting blocks. Once we get blocks, it's literally a kind of a copy and paste. So what I'm going to do now is I like the side. I like this door. Okay. Now this door is 36 inches wide. How wide is a normal interior door? Varies a lot, but typically it's about 30, right? Somewhere in there between 28 and 32. A lot of times 30 is a happy home. Huh? What do you got? What doors you got? Inside? What's your front? Okay. Sure. So if I do a little math on that, let's grab my calculator. Okay, and I do 6 divided by 30 equals 1.2. Okay, so that's 1.2 times the size of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and scale this. So we need to scale this down by a factor of 1/5, essentially, 1/6. So let's take this whole item, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm just going to copy it and bring it up over here. And I'll take my ortho off just so I can put it like right here. Okay. And before I do anything else with it, I'm going to select all the parts and pieces of it, which is the door and the swing. And I'm going to create what's called a block. So I'm going to create what's called a block, B-L-O-C-K. Okay. And what a block does is instead of having, let's say this was drawn with an arc, this was drawn with like a rectangle and an arc. Okay. So it actually only has 2 elements, but it could have 5, right? It could have 4 lines for the door and 1 line for the arc, giving you 5 elements. When you create a block, it takes all of those and groups it together into 1 element. So now that they don't move, you can't accidentally grab this line and move it over here, right? You can't do that. It's locked in. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a block. So let's go ahead and select all of your door items. So the door swing and the door. And I want to go type in B-L-O-C-K. And it will bring up my block. And I'm going to call this 3-foot door. Now, this is a very, very important step real quick. Before you do anything, before you click OK, because you could just go ahead and click OK right now, and it will create that block. But when you go to place it, you're going to have a lot of issues trying to find it. Okay. I did this the other day when we placed our title block. I was like, why isn't this placing right? It was because it was placing off the origin and it was placing like 10,000 feet away. Okay. So what we want to do is click this pick point. And what that does is it says, hey, every time you drop this block in, wherever I click right here, that's going to be the starting point of that block. So when I drop that in, I can snap right to that door opening, and that's automatically going to be in the right spot. Okay. So I go ahead and click OK. And just to show you this, I'll go ahead and delete this door. And I'm going to go to my block palette, my blocks palette. Now that I created that door, it is now here in my recent blocks. So anytime you come over to here and you click an item, right, 3-foot door, as soon as I drag this off the block editor or the block property, and what is this? Blocks palette, sorry. As soon as I drag it off the block palette, it's going to try to insert that, and it's going to insert it using the point that we selected on that insertion point. Okay, so that step right there is huge. If you don't do that, okay, this door could just come in like up here, 20,000 feet away, because maybe you drew it 5,000 feet from the origin, and now you're trying to place it 10,000 feet from that origin. Now you've got another 15,000 feet, right? So it multiplies. If you don't understand where that block is being placed, it's really hard to find it. Okay. And it's hard to manipulate it because now instead of having something that's really easy that you can just drag from your block palette, you actually have to drag it from the block palette. Now go find it, then use your move command, select a spot, go move it to the right location when you could have just drug it, clicked once, and it was done. Okay. So having the ability to bring something out of that block palette is super, super handy. All right, so let's take a look at the last thing we want to look at today, which is an interior door. Okay. And so I'm going to use my scale feature. I'm actually going to copy this. I'm just going to copy it down. And I'm going to select it and I'm going to scale it. Let's see if it allows me to do this. So it may or may not. Yep, it is going to. Okay. And I want to scale it as a factor of 0.8. And when I type in block, now I can create a block here that is my 30-inch door. So let's confirm. Before I do that, let's go ahead and confirm. I can draw a line between the two of them. And let's see, how big is this door, just to make sure. It's close. It's 28 and 3/4, something like that. I don't really care exactly what it is. Okay, if we wanted to make this exactly 30 inches, exactly whatever, we could always start over. Scaling things is always kind of variable unless you hit the exact decimal point, right? But this is good enough for now. So I'll just call this 28-inch interior door. Again, I'm going to specify my point. Now, I think it didn't like this because I think it thinks these are the same. So I'm going to explode this real quick.
Hey, Graham, is it specify point or is it pick point?
It would be the pick point. Let me explode this. What I'm doing is I'm just making this into all individual elements again. So now when I type in block, I can build. It was actually trying to build the same. Yeah, we want to do the pick point. So we'll do 28-inch interior door. Pick point. We're going to pick this interior point right here and click OK. Oh, and it doesn't like inches. That's right. So I will call it 28-inch interior. I scaled it by 0.8. It maybe probably should be like 0.825 to be exactly right, but close enough for tonight. And now that I have this interior door over here, okay, I can take the same thing from my title block, or sorry, not my title block, from my blocks palette. And now I can drop this interior door wherever I want to, right? And I don't have the same thing at a place now. No, we'll just drag a new one over. So grab one for there, one for here. Now you do notice that it does want to flip for you. Okay, so it will flip, a block will flip around depending on the reference. So just keep that in mind. It's only trying to help you, but sometimes it can kind of get confusing if it accidentally flips itself over. And so I'll do one more here. And then last but not least, one like that. And then last but not least, let's insert one more. And I'll insert it here at this location, right? And you can see it's actually trying to go ahead and rotate that for me because it saw that it should be going against a perpendicular line. Okay. So now I've got 3 doors in there. And if I wanted to, I could come in here and with my interior walls selected, choose this line tool and draw a few lines so then that way I can create some openings, right? So I'd like you to finish this off by creating the openings for the other doors, and then go ahead and turn off your construction layer when you submit your screenshot. Okay, so we want to just see a nice clean drawing, something like this. Okay, if you're having an issue, like maybe this is zooming in way too far, maybe it's zooming out and you can't find a good home, you can always hit Z, enter, W, enter, and then click the top left of where you want and the bottom right of where you want, and it will zoom exactly to that area. Okay, so if you're having an issue at all, trying to get this to show as big as you can, right? You can always use your zoom window and select the window that you want to see. Right? I can do the same thing with window, and maybe I want both of these to show, right? So now it will just show me both of those. Any questions on things we've covered tonight? So we've gone over some layers, we've gone over some walls, doors, windows. Next week, we're going to be building blocks. So if you didn't fully get this door, don't worry about it. We're going to revisit it next week. Okay. So if you don't have the doors in, that's fine. If you do, please go ahead and add the other interior wall lines so you can trim those door openings and actually make an opening in that door. Any questions? Okay.
Yes,
I will.
will we get a copy of the recording later? Because
I
I
will.
joined the class late.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll post a copy of the recording. There should be something posted and up on Canvas by tomorrow morning. So I'll post it tonight when I get home to YouTube and send a link on Canvas in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time. I will get this video posted and I will see you all next Tuesday. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just click a couple buttons real